So let's look at burden number one with the first overall burden, which is going to be our drainage and congestion, and looking at this lymphatic and hepatic backup. Obviously, our liver and our lymphatic system, those are the washing machines of the body. Those are the ones that are going to clean out everything. But what happens when you have a traffic jam? What happens when you're on the interstate and it looks like this picture? Basically, nothing's moving. And that is going to be your first sign to think about what happens at the end of this funnel of traffic here. Where there's an accident, there's cones out there, and there's only a few cars going through. That means things are going to be on the low end. So what happens when AST and ALT are in the 20s? Looks normal, but it can indicate a phase 2 problem. So pattern number one is the perfect liver. The perfect liver may look something like this. AST and ALT is 15 to 25. That's fantastic. Nothing wrong with you. You're processing pretty well on the detox side. You got no congestion. GGT is sitting at like 15. Alkaline phosphatase may be at like 50. What this actually can translate to, not all the time, but it can translate to phase 2 detox sluggishness, possible gallbladder stasis, possible bowel problems. So this is what I want you to think about as being a masterful functional medicine practitioner, is looking at things with a different lens and not just being blinkered. Why is this hidden in plain sight? Bottom line is exactly the analogy I just went through with a interstate that is chock-a-block. It's got a couple of cones at the end of that, and you've got 1 or 2 cars trickling through. This can be the same thing when you've got a blockage of phase 1 through to phase 2, and that bottleneck is going to create just a little bit of damage in the liver, which is going to be the normal AST-ALT levels. You're also going to get a normal, highly sensitive CRP, ESR. Your basic CBC pattern looks pretty good, but there are signs of gut barrier compromise because you'll look at things like albumin that's going to start to slip below 4.5. You're going to have hormones within the normal range in inverted commas, but basically they're being suppressed by these unidentified burdens. So we need to, again, look beyond the lens. Now, I'm going to go through some examples. These are some patients of mine. This is a cancer patient with severe parasitic infections. Looks normal. There's no highs. Look at AST-ALT, 14, 13. Beautiful. Alkaline phosphatase, 58. Albumin, 4.5. This looks pretty. Let's look at normal lab range here. Another cancer patient. ALT, AST, 17, 17. Bilirubin looks okay. Alkaline phosphatase, 68. Okay, looks okay. Here's a double autoimmune client. AST-ALT, 12, 24. Doesn't look so bad. Autoimmune client. ALT-AST actually rising a little bit. 30, 33, but still in the normal ranges. No burden there. Another autoimmune patient of mine. Have a look. ALT, 22. AST, 20. These look great. They don't feel great. Okay, so that's my whole point there. So we've got to be looking at these patterns. And does one pattern indicate there's a problem? No. But when we have 2, 3 of these patterns that I'm going through now, they're all pointing in the wrong direction in a normal range. That is when we need to be thinking possible congestion, possible poor detoxification of phase 2, possible bile duct issues, possible gallbladder issues. So we got to look at things like as pattern number 2, which is the inversion. ALT higher than AST. One of those labs that I just went through was a 2-to-1 ratio. When we have B6 dysregulation, whether it's low normal or elevated, we've got poor utilization. This is often missed on blood work. Even if we're doing serum levels, we don't know what's happening in the cell. This is why we need to do things like urine testing, metabolomics, where we can look at xanthinic acid. If xanthinic acid is on the high side, we know B6 is not being utilized. It's either deficient or it's been blocked. Pattern number 3 is looking at the lymphatic signature. So when you have lymphocytes on the low normal, you got monocytes above 8%, eosinophils above 4% or below 1%, either way, and platelets heading towards the upper 200s. This is a classic pattern, if combined with one of the other patterns, of lymphatic congestion, chronic immune activation, sluggish lymph, and this can be very easily explained. The bilirubin story, again, if bilirubin is consistently below 0.4, if your cholesterol is low, it's like, oh, great stuff, that's low. That may not be a good sign because it may indicate poor bile production, impaired fat-soluble toxin clearance. So again, none of these 4 patterns that I've just gone through here are really diagnostic, but if you put 2 or 3 of them or all of them together, then this patient's drainage system is compromised. And that is the whole point of why we need to take 6 months to be able to go step by step to unburden the immune system, system by system. So what happens if you skip drainage? Here's the big mistake. You start with antimicrobials off the bat. You start with immune stimulants. Without opening drainage first, you're basically mobilizing toxins faster than the body can clear them. That is what is happening. The patient gets a massive Herxheimer reaction. They get a headache. They feel like crap. They got the flu. They get aches and pains. They get skin rashes. And you go, oh my goodness, that's just a Herxheimer reaction. But you have gone too fast. Why do we typically start with the elimination diet? We start with a wellness foundation pack. We give them binders. We reduce inflammation. Because we want to start to help the drainage flow better. And only when you typically get your labs back in 6 weeks, then you're going to start to think, but you've already gone through that process. So think about why we teach a systemized approach. And if you haven't gone through that first, typically 4 to 6 weeks of what we teach here, and you get the labs back, you haven't started them with anything. Now I see you got candida, you got parasites, you got bacteria.